Okay, so most sports docs you've watched start in one of four ways. One, someone's looking into the distance, pretending to reflect on the past. Two, a montage of people get settled into the interview chair.
I kept meaning to look in the mirror before I got in here.
Three, combining a bunch of sound bites without context.
I didn't really know where I stood. He probably hated me.
That hit me right across the face.
He was smiling assassin.
Nobody really wanted to come to Toronto.
And four, a collection of awesome plays with really awesome calls.
Half man, half amazing.
What a vicious slam! Got it! David Stoudemire has done it again!
But we're not doing any of that. It's super cliche. We're gonna get right to the story. This is John.
I didn't understand why we didn't have a team.
This is Richard.
I always wanted to run a basketball team.
In the early 90s, they were competing to get an NBA team in Toronto.
Larry Tannenbaum said, is there anyone that you know would like to help me get a basketball team? And I said, yeah, me.
Larry's super important later in the Raptors' existence.
We were up against two formidable groups because you had Labatt's working with Larry, and then you had basically Live Nation now kind of working with Magic Johnson.
Master P phoned me.
Make 'em say,
And it said, I'd like to put a basketball team in the Skydome.
Master P would actually try out for the team someday. But we don't have time for that storyline.
I went to 20 of the franchises and visited them thinking it was a democracy. And then we found it wasn't a democracy at all.
Presentation in New York, some of the groups decided to launch a name.
We showed this to David Stern. He turned and said, where the hell did that come from?
What are you laughing at?
One of the things I learned, you don't pick the franchise name. They choose.
We said, we're going to work with NBA properties and develop a name with you as a partner.
Full banner day in the life of NBA's newest team. The league officially approved the addition of the Toronto franchise for the 95-96 season. Here's Mr. Excitement, Jerry Coangelo, the expansion committee with the warm and fuzzy.
Toronto is an exciting market for us, and we're very happy to have the Bitoff Group as a member of the NBA, and we're very excited about it.
Trust me, it was much more exciting than how it sounded right there.
And it was just elation. It was fantastic.
They call the National Basketball Association the finest run league in the world today, and it's going to be run by John Bitoff and his group of millionaire friends, a group that kind of laid low during the NBA expansion committee talks. Didn't make a big splash like the other groups, but they made a big splash today.
So this is John's crew. The guy on the right is Alan Slate. He's gonna ruin John's dream someday. Oh, and don't forget about Richard and Larry. They'll be back.
There's no manual on starting a sports franchise. Picking a GM, picking a name, picking the colors, picking the uniforms. Oh, I definitely wanted something that was animal-like.
Are you worried about something that is trendy now, may not be later?
I think that, to a large degree, you have to go with what the people want.
T-Rex was my personal choice. I just thought no one had really done a dinosaur theme. My son, Brett, I think he was 5 years old at the time, said, Dad, if you like T-Rex, why don't you like Raptors? They ran a fan ballot thing, and Raptors was the clear winner.
This is the moment you've been waiting for. The newest, freshest, and hungriest look in the NBA.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Raptors are born.
I think Tom O'Grady is a classic reason of why the NBA expansion committee chose our group.
I'm Tom O'Grady. I am the first NBA creative director. We were getting into a place where no other sports team had ever gone, which is designing to a dinosaur graphic. You know, the chance to do something with dinosaurs, especially right on the heels of Jurassic Park, was like, wow, this is a gift.
How do we shake it up? How do we make it different?
The 90s were all about flash and color, kind of glitz. One of the first things that we talked about was no blue. You know, Maple Leafs blue, Blue Jays blue. We have to move away from those colors.
Hardest decision we had to make was, were we going to go with purple or lime green as the primary color?
Purple was a hot color, so I'm not going to deny that we were chasing a trend there.
You know, we picked purple because it was a nice blend of the red and the blue. When you mix red and blue together, which are Toronto's sports team colors, you get purple.
Originally, the Raptor was green, and we had bronze instead of silver in the logo.
I was just afraid lime green was a little too kind of like out there.
He goes, what if we just tried to do something like we made the Raptor red? I'm like, made the Raptor red? Okay, it sounds ridiculous.
I said, Tommy, I know, just work with it. Just throw it all together and let's see what it looks like.
2 days later, I got a call. Well, we got our logo. Everybody's fallen in love with it. They love that the red ties to Canada.
He goes like, man, this is out there, but I like it.
I'm like, that's why you're my guy.
We broke a lot of rules when it comes to a standard basketball uniform design. It was a wide open canvas, and we just let it rip.
Now that is sharp.
The vision from day one, we had to be as strong in the community as we were on the court. If we were just a good basketball team, we'd have no followers. And it was, to a large degree, why Isaiah was brought in.
If you're too young to know Isaiah Thomas, he was big in the 80s and 90s. Google him.
He was known as a champion, known as a player, had just retired. So it was like, here's someone who can help build the equity in the sport in the country.
I'll make you proud.
When we were interviewing for the GM, Isaiah goes, I'm only going to take this job if I can bring Glenn, because I need someone really smart beside me.
Well, I was excited about the opportunity.
Isaiah and Glenn go way back. They played together at the University of Indiana.
When I was in Denver working for the Nuggets, we had actually tried to relocate the Nuggets to Toronto. And I knew from that basis what a great city, what a great market Toronto was.
Isaiah could not have done this without Glenn. They molded the perfect kind of basketball brain, because they look at it differently, but they think the same.
I was involved a lot in the expansion draft, which was, really difficult burden placed on the franchise in a lot of ways. We were designed not to be a successful team by the expansion plans of the NBA.
Basketball is back in Canada. The Vancouver Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors have been welcomed with open arms. And we welcome you to the NBA expansion draft. We're at the NBA's studios in Secaucus, New Jersey. I'm Bob Costas, and this is Rod Black.
Now that the new Toronto and Vancouver franchises have selected nicknames, uniforms, general managers, and head coaches, it's time to find players to put on the court. That process begins with the expansion draft.
That was Rod Black before. This is him now.
Even in the studio that day, I'm kind of going, is this real? I was going, pinch me, is it? This is actually real. We didn't know the players that were going to be involved, and they were kind of a lot of cast-offs.
With the first pick, the Raptors of Toronto have gone for B.J. Armstrong, now a former Chicago Bull.
Really? Really? This is happening? We're in this show. He's getting drafted number 1. I knew B.J. Armstrong wasn't. I knew he wasn't staying. I knew he wasn't playing.
Do you expect B.J. Armstrong to be in Toronto?
No, I don't, Bob. A team that really needs a point guard is the Washington Bullets, and they've got the number 4 pick, which Toronto really want, because they want Kevin Garnett, the high school sensation.
Away from the cameras, Vesey and Costas and myself, we all had the conversation. He's not going to play. Why are they even selecting him? But I think Isaiah had this grand plan anyway.
All right, let's pick up with Isaiah Thomas, who joins us now. You might swap Armstrong to the Bullets in return for the 4th pick, and they would also get your selection, which would be 7. Has that been discussed?
There's a lot of interest in B.J. Armstrong. I'm not so sure if I want to get rid of those qualities so easily.
What kind of odds would you give that he'd wear a Raptor uniform at the beginning of next season?
Well, the odds are pretty high.
So we have the first meeting. He comes into Toronto, and I'm in Isaiah's office, and B.J. walks in. And the first thing, BJ says, hey, Isaiah, I respect you a lot, but I don't want to play here. I want you to trade me.
Within the Raptors front office, it was a kick in the teeth, kick in the gut. It was BS.
My jaw dropped because, he didn't give us a chance. But it was also the fact that it was just playing in Toronto is what he was objecting to. And so that hit me right across the face.
It was the first domino in a long line of players that did not want to play in Canada.
Kevin Garnett, the high school star out of Chicago, who will not play college ball, is eligible. And you are known to be interested in Garnett.
I'm not one of those GMs who would probably say, no, I'm not interested, no, I'm not interested. Hey, I want the world to know I'm interested.
Kevin Garnett had a lot of helium, but not nearly as much as Ed O'Bannon did that year. For Canadian fans, they're going, oh, that's the guy we want. That's the guy we like to have.
On the shores of Lake Ontario, beautiful Toronto, Ontario, Canada, site of the 1995 NBA draft. How about the high school kid, Kevin Garnett, out of Farragut Academy in Chicago, Illinois? Everybody loves the kid. He can jump right out of the gym.
Good evening, and welcome to the 1995 NBA draft. Held for the first time in Canada, home of the NBA's 2 newest teams, the Vancouver Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors.
They did not want the Raptors or the Grizzlies to win maybe forever. But the way they set it up, especially with the draft rules, not being able to get that #1 pick. Imagine the players they could have had.
This year's draft is being telecast on both TNT in the United States and YTV here in Canada.
Yep, you heard that right. The draft aired on YTV, a channel geared for children and young teenagers.
All right, this is Dunn Street. It is the 1995 NBA draft. Let's go down to Skydome to find out what's going on.
Hello to everybody. Welcome to the Skydome, home of the 1995 NBA draft. You can literally feel the excitement and the emotion brewing out here tonight.
That's right, Eva. And as exciting as this must be for us, imagine how it must be for the players who sit in the green rooms and await to see what their basketball futures will hold.
I was feeling good. You know, I was excited, nervous, all at the same time. I knew I probably would go to either Minnesota or Toronto. But that wasn't contingent on me. That was contingent on Kevin Garnett.
With the 5th pick in the 1995 NBA draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Kevin Garnett.
What do you do if you're the Toronto Raptors here?
I don't think it's quite an obvious pick here. I think the draft changes now. We're in a crapshoot.
They're saying, we want Ed, we want Ed, we want Ed O'Bannon.
Nobody knows who Toronto's going to pick right now. We'll be surprised if it is Ed O'Bannon, but the people may tear down this place if it's not.
You heard this, Eddie, like they started almost before the first pick of the draft was announced.
Maybe for lack of a better word, ignorance. People only knew what they saw on TV and UCLA winning the title that year, and they all wanted Ed O'Bannon.
You know, but Isaiah was like, you know what? Like, they don't know. Trust me, this guy, like, they don't know.
And right now we're going to go to the podium with the Toronto Raptors' first draft pick.
With the 7th pick in the 1995 NBA draft, the Toronto Raptors select Damon Stoudemire from the University of Arizona.
I guess you expect that in draft night. A few boos because people say, hey, that's not the guy we wanted.
Honestly, a lot of things were going on at that moment, but none of it was worried about anybody in that crowd. Because at that time, when you hear your name called, like, it was all the blood, sweat, and tears for me. So I kind of heard it, kind of heard the boos, but honestly, I really didn't pay attention to them.
We had the Raptors, yeah, Damon Stoudemire.
Okay. Can you believe that one, eh?
No.
Isaiah zeroed in on him. Isaiah loved his competitiveness, his toughness, his skill level. I think maybe he related to him a little bit as a smaller guard in the NBA.
I remember the first time that I ever seen him in one of my games. You know, he was looking at me the whole game. I focused on him for 2 straight solid hours. And it was like I turned away, but I looked back and he was still looking at me.
I don't think we really hesitated at that pick.
And I know Damon, those boos motivated him a little bit.
Does Isaiah Thomas see a little bit of himself in a pick like Damon Stoudemire?
Let's hope so.
Isaiah was looking at a guy in his own image drafting Damon.
It meant more to me to know Isaiah Thomas was in the organization at that time than it actually meant to play for the Toronto Raptors, you know, because for me, that was like a childhood idol. I could not have been in a better situation to start my NBA career.
There's some mixed response, some boos, some cheers. Take some time. Go change those boos to cheers, will you? Well, I'm definitely going to try to do that.
Isaiah, good to talk to you again, and geez, leave it to a point guard to pick another point guard, huh?
We liked the high school kid, but we wasn't going to have a chance to get him. After that, we felt that the next best player in the draft was Damon Stoudemire.
Damon and Isaiah had this wonderful relationship, big brother, little brother. And Isaiah proved that heart matters as much as size in basketball. And then Damon exemplified that for the Raptors. And I think as an expansion team and a young team, you know, it gave us a lot of hope.
They've got Damon, some cool uniforms, and a bunch of cast-offs from other teams. But no arena to play in, so they call a Skydome home.
That needle's called a CN Tower. Skydome is right under it. They say when you get lost, look for that needle, and you know which way you're going.
If you think you're late for practice, all you gotta do is look out here and go, well, there's nobody out there. I got a couple more minutes to spare.
In the old days at the Skydome, people up in the 500 level. I mean, the guys must have looked an inch and a half big, and the game was just a rumor from up there.
Yeah, it was a dump. It was just a terrible, terrible facility for basketball.
You know, there was a couple of times I seen some birds flying in the arena, but still, it was still the NBA.
Not just another game. This is history being made.
I was so jacked that day. I'll never forget that. To have an NBA team playing in Canada, unheard of. And now This is happening on opening night.
Tonight, the Raptors' journey begins as pro basketball returns to Toronto. Welcome live to Toronto, Ontario, the home opener for the Toronto Raptors in front of 30,000 people and the dream of rookie point guard Damon Stoudemire.
I can't sit up here and lie to you. Everybody has doubts, going to a new level of ball. And, I have my doubts, but, now I have a lot of confidence.
I was excited, but I was nervous, but I got nervous before every game. The excitement around the town, the anticipation. So it was just a lot of build up and a lot going on.
Pomp and circumstance, that opening night, it was epic. It was historic.
Don't let the glitz or the distractions get to you tonight. Go out there and play hard and play together for 48 minutes. Let's go. Come on.
That's Brendan Malone, their first coach. Isaiah and him go way back to their Piston days. He's going to get fired soon. We'll tell you about that a little later on.
Opening night is always big and a little nervousness about how they're going to accept us. And record crowd in there, I do believe, it was packed and it was loud and it was noisy.
It was festive. It was a party, like sensory overload stuff, and a great Canadian moment, a great Canadian sports moment. I still get chills from it.
There were some people kind of taking it all in a very kind of jovial, celebratory kind of way, but they didn't understand that this was the start of the franchise and there was a game that was actually going to be played.
I want you to relax tonight, all right? Relax. A lot of expectations. The best way to play is the way you play in the schoolyard.
That moment when the ball finally tipped off, it was a relief, to be honest with you.
The opening tip. We're underway and the Raptors win it. John Tabak brings it back to Damon Stoudemire, who will set up his offense.
Probably the only thing that didn't go my way in that particular game was Alvin Robertson scored the first bucket. I didn't.
Alvin Robertson for three. There is the first ever basket scored by a Toronto Raptor.
Alvin! Then, give me!
Stoudemire shovels it to Robertson to Pinckney.
And the crowd's enjoying it. They're getting into it right now. We can see the camera shaking right now from the fans.
The fan base with the game of basketball may have been a little naive.
I'm not sure everybody in the building knew what they were witnessing or understood everything.
It was a couple times that they cheered and they didn't need to cheer.
They were giving out the noisemakers.
They handed out the balloons, but they handed them out to the wrong side.
I guess they thought you cheer for your own team shooting free throws.
They handed them out to the home team side. And the home team's shooting on them. And you go, oh my gosh, we got to switch that.
And David Stern sitting beside me, elbows me, he goes, Bitover, you guys doing something new in the league?
But the fan base, in terms of the hospitality, the appreciation, and the love that they showed, had never been in a city like that.
Hey, Carlo! Big time!
Anderson spinning, blocked again, and they will not stop. The crowd rises in the Skydome.
Nobody's leaving. Everybody is staying here, enjoying this historical moment.
It was sort of predetermined that they were going to win. It was too good a story for them not to. They're playing a bad team. They were jazzed up by the 36,000 people.
Raptors, John Sally will hang on to the ball. And that ball is a piece of history. The Toronto Raptors have won their season opener at home.
There was a lot of people in there, and I was looking around going, wow, this is pretty impressive right here. It was noisy, too. It was loud.
It was weird at times. It was fine as long as there was a lot of people. There's going to be some games where, quite frankly, there's not going to be a lot of people. And those were the games that were difficult.
Basketball thrives on intimacy, and there was none. They tried to make it good, but man, it was a mausoleum. When there were only 18 or 20,000 people in there, it was dead.
It wasn't made for basketball, and it didn't exactly have the vibe of something more intimate. But when the Bulls came to town, it was like a rock show had just arrived.
Michael Jordan, the magician, the legend. Today, his airness touches down in Toronto.
It was like our championship. The Bulls were chasing history. We were chasing nothing.
There is a buzz in this building. It will be the biggest crowd in the NBA season this year. Jordan and the Bulls with 60 wins, shooting for the magical number 70.
The night before, I had took MJ out. We drank and ate, smoked cigars, and really had a good time.
The Sunday matinee game became almost Toronto's superpower. There were some of the remnants of that afternoon.
And from North Carolina, a 6'6" guard, number 23, Michael Jordan.
This was nuts. This was off the charts.
Big bad Bulls come to town. Before Vince, that was the highlight of the club.
And everybody, their eyes were just glued to Michael Jordan. And by the way, those are the Raptors, the home team that's playing over there.
Robertson back to Carlos, look out! Scottie Pippen with the numbers, off to Jordan. Oh, yes.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. You want to stop Michael Jordan, don't let him get on the bus.
There he is, again.
For the first quarter and a half, every time Michael hit a basket, there was a roar. You never heard that.
Stoudemire, Rogers, nice pass to Tracy Murray. Christie, yes. Carlos Rogers with another hammer down in the first half. Michael Jordan, 13 points. Damon Stoudemire has 14 for the Raptors, 56-54 at halftime.
The first half was like, they looked a little sleepy. Okay, is this really Michael Jordan or is this a hungover Michael Jordan? What is it? Having said that, I still think a hungover Michael Jordan can beat almost everybody 99% of the time, so it didn't matter.
Stoudemire, shot clock at 6, penetrating, pumping, yes! 22 for Mighty Mouse.
I think I said to Leo that, holy crap, is this real? And then we both kind of agreed, well, Michael's going to be Michael.
Jordan baseline again. Oh, ho, ho.
Wow, was that quick?
Don't ever get him mad. Don't get him mad. Stoudemire takes it strong to the basket and converts it.
Phil Jackson does not like what he sees. Damon penetrating with ease.
89-86 Raptors. Jordan in the game, and wow.
It's about that time, Rod. It's the fourth quarter.
Michael had this kind of radar. It's almost like this early warning detection system. Oh my goodness. Here comes Michael Jordan. Raptors battle, though. They battle back.
Stoudemire for 3. Yes! Raptors by 1.
Look, sports team's about selling hope, but at a certain point you have to win.
Well, here we go. 3 minutes left in the game. Jordan.
Every time he touched it, I double teamed him. And he looked over at me and said, hey, didn't I take you out to dinner last night? And so this is what you're going to do tonight? I said, come on, MJ, man, we got nobody that can guard you.
Jordan, tongue hanging out again.
When the tongue came out, look out. That was it. It's over. It's over. I've seen it so many times. It's over.
He looked over at the Raptors bench, just gave him the stare, the Michael Jordan look.
Michael's waking up, doing Michael things, staring down the Raptor bench and looking at Darryl Walker, and he and Walker have a thing going.
Oh my goodness, Michael Jordan again. And he just came back and ran by the scorer's table and said, ooh, that was a good one.
Stoudemire. Nice pass. Tie game. 35 seconds left in this game. Jordan, watch out for him. There it is again. He does it again.
Alvin Robertson just shaking his head. He goes, I can't do any more than I did. I was all over the man.
I remember a key basket on an inbound play. Tracy Murray coming off a high screen around the top of the key.
31.8 left. Murray. 109-108. If they can beat the Chicago Bulls, it would be the biggest win of this young franchise.
Raptors take the lead. I'm thinking, Bulls are going to find a way to win this. Bulls are going to find a way to win this.
I was sitting in the stand. I had a great lineup of that last-second bank shot from Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
With an incredible bank shot from the right side.
And the Bulls make it 7 straight wins. Jordan. Kerr, 5 seconds. Pippen will have to let it go. 3. Steve Kerr. No. Jordan. Yes.
That's what Michael Jordan does. And he did it again, another dagger, a knife right through the chest.
He said, oh no, we just lost the game on a last-second shot.
Even some of the players didn't know. They were looking around going, whoa, 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 whoa.
And luckily the game wasn't 48 minutes and 1 second, because if it was, then, they would have won, because Mike hits that shot.
But no, after the buzzer, and the Toronto Raptors have done it. They have beaten Michael. They have beaten the Bulls. 109-108. Man, I haven't heard this place like this since the Blue Jays won the World Series.
A Sunday afternoon game in Toronto. You guys have no idea how difficult that is to win.
I can't speak specifically to the Bulls, but historically for the first 4 or 5 years when they played those noon or 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon games, they had a decided advantage.
Maybe Darrell Walker the night before thought about that when he was taking Michael Jordan out, because whatever it was, it worked.
They love the city. Trust me, the guys love the city.
All I know is that it was a Sunday afternoon game. We had some great wins on Sunday afternoon.
That was the game, I think, that Damon Stoudemire solidified his vote for Rookie of the Year.
Damon was a beast that season. He dominated on the floor. He was doing commercials. He was a star. Oh, and those draft day boos? Yeah, they were gone.
Well, his nickname, Mighty Mouse, right? That was great. He's an exciting player.
He wore that tattoo, Mighty Mouse, like nobody else. He was exactly what his nickname said. He was that underdog who could ride to the rescue. Here I come to save the day.
Stoudemire. He gets the situation well in hand.
Schick rookie game. It was All-Star Saturday on TNT.
From the Toronto Raptors, Damon Stoudemire.
Stoudemire. Damon Stoudemire. Stoudemire. The MVP in this game. How about this? 19 points, 11 assists, 4 steals. You got it, Damon Stoudemire.
I told the people at Toronto that they learned to appreciate my play, and I think they have up to this point. I just hope that I can continue to play well for them.
Joe Smith, Stackhouse, Bentley, Stoudemire. Rookie of the Year is going to be tough.
At this time, I'd like to introduce the Rookie of the Year, Damon Stoudemire.
People were begging for Ed O'Bannon, and fast forward a year, and Dame's the
Rookie of the Year. That was really huge. I really took pride and wore that with a badge on it. It was about putting on for the city, and I think that Rookie of the Year trophy was symbolic of me saying thank you to not only the organization for drafting me, but for the city that embraced me.
He's a stud, no doubt about it. And then when he wins Rookie of the Year, it's like, oh my God, Isaiah, did we get this right? It was such a great way to get going in the city.
He definitely brought credibility to, the team, the city, and the logo.
Between Damon and beating the Bulls in that first year, people started going like, maybe this sport's gonna make it. Maybe this team is gonna make it.
Maybe, but remember I said Coach Malone wouldn't make it? Here's why.
Give Brendan Malone credit. By doing things his way, he defied the odds, winning 21 games. But unfortunately, in his bid to win, Brendan Malone openly defied Isaiah Thomas. And that, despite the record, has cost him his job.
Isaiah and Brendan didn't see the same vision of how to build the team. Maybe there was a little loss of trust, perhaps, between the two.
Isaiah had told Brendan basically quit playing Damon all those minutes.
Damon was sort of breaking down at the end, and his knee was really troubling him. He had bad tendonitis in his knee.
I started strong and I hit a wall.
We wanted to make sure that he, didn't jeopardize his longer career, because we had hoped that he would stay with us for a long time.
Brendan didn't do it. He did it the way he wanted to do it, and Isaiah decided to make a change. I had no clue that he was going to give me the job.
I like Darrell a lot, and I think if he's honest with you right today, he would say he wasn't ready to be an NBA head coach.
I wasn't ready to be a head coach in the NBA at 30 years old. I had just retired a couple of years before. I don't think I was really prepared for it.
Okay, so this is where the story starts to get confusing. So bear with me. John and his partner Alan, remember this photo? They're about to split up. They're fighting about how to build an arena because Skydome wasn't it.
It was a shotgun clause in the original partnership deal between Alan Slade and John Bitove. And Bitove had to come up with X amount of money to stay in the ownership. He couldn't do it.
I'm with John Bitove, the president and owner of the Toronto Raptors, at least owner for now. It's been a tough time for you. John, you got some decisions to make come November 14th. Will you still own the Raptors?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to sit down and see what happens between now and the 14th and discuss it with my family when we get closer to the deadline.
Bitov and Slade had a big fight.
Yep, Richard's about to be back in the picture pretty soon.
It was getting more and more important to attract the Leafs into the building. And we just had two different strategies how to go about it.
Well, it was a high-pressure situation, really. We were obligated to build a new arena, and we were unable to really deal with the Maple Leafs.
I wanted to continue building in the belief that the Leafs would come. Alan thought that by taking me out, he could negotiate with the Leafs.
John and Alan don't agree on strategy, so John's out. That's right. The guy who brought NBA basketball to Toronto is gone by the start of season 2.
It was quite upsetting at the time.
I get the job all of a sudden.
This sets off a series of events that fracture the foundation of the team.
Alan made a mistake when he hired me. He didn't even involve Isaiah, so we got off on the wrong foot.
Isaiah and John were tight. And once the Slate took control, basically the writing was on the paper that, okay, maybe Isaiah's not here for the longest of time.
I remember meeting with him for lunch and said, Isaiah, how about I'll be president of the business side, you be president of the basketball team. He did not accept that.
Isaiah had a vision for how the whole sports teams in Toronto should work together, and we've ultimately seen it with MLSE and how we have such major players all working together.
All of a sudden, Alan Slate comes to me and says, oh, Isaiah's going to buy the team. Isaiah was not a business guy. And if he had a business plan, it probably was written on a napkin.
Pause right here for a second. Clearly, Richard does not like Isaiah.
He tried to put a group to buy the team. Again, money was hard. It was hard to raise a lot of money.
I worked with Isaiah on that. It was much closer than people think to getting done.
He was very charming. He could win over anyone. He was smiling assassin. He was all around chatting it up, never had a business plan, hell of a point guard. Lousy business plan is proven by all the things that he went on to fail in.
Now I know what you're thinking. Where's Isaiah? You want to hear his version? So do we. Responsible storytelling is about sharing both sides of the story without bias. There are always two truths. Isaiah agreed to do an interview, and then he went silent. So unfortunately, we don't have his side.
And welcome to Charlotte and the Charlotte Coliseum. It's time for the 1997 NBA Draft.
Okay, back to the timeline. It's the 1997 NBA Draft, and well, remember how we told you that Isaiah and the Raptors missed out on drafting high schooler Kevin Garnett in '95? This time they'd get their chance with another kid fresh out of high school.
Toronto's up, so's the commissioner.
With the 9th pick in the 1997 NBA Draft, the Toronto Raptors select Tracy McGrady from Mount Zion Christian Academy.
That's the question I was supposed to ask, I think, of you guys.
I would encourage these guys to think about staying in school, but I don't know if any kid's ready to go in that league.
He's going to be an outstanding player down the road. So it was a great pick for them, taking the best talent that they think for the next few years down the line.
Drafting a high school player is a riskier thing than normal, so it's a gutsy call. Isaiah was convinced. I guess that was what mattered, but we had a couple scouts that also were really high on him too.
They knew they had missed on Kevin Garnett. I don't think the Raptors wanted to miss on Tracy McGrady. It was clear.
We saw a lot of athleticism. He played above the rim, but he was going to learn to shoot the ball better, guard better. There's a lot of things he had to do. He was an 18-year-old kid.
First time we play, Tracy cross somebody over, and he comes down the lane and he takes off and he dunks.
Oh my, the kid with the springs, Tracy McGrady.
I was just like, damn. He's gonna be a really good player.
He's still very raw and still very gangly as a teenager, but you could see that he was really a special talent.
Isaiah said, oh, I know how to handle a teenager. And we're going to set him all this stuff, everything from diet to accommodations. None of that ever happened. We just dropped him into Toronto, ill-prepared for it.
The biggest mistake was not allowing Mac to grow.
He needed a lot of support. Maybe we didn't give him as much support. He was young, immature perhaps.
Tracy had a difficult time, and he would tell you this himself, wasn't ready, didn't understand about being professional.
He was young. He was 18 years old. Coming to practice 15 minutes late, arriving on the plane late.
really not listening to film sessions. What are we doing? Like, this is not what NBA teams supposed to be doing right now.
I think the expectations were too high on him. His first year was a write-off.
I thought Tracy could practice harder and play harder, and I was probably hard on him and didn't play him because he wasn't ready to play.
Daryl was a rookie coach, so he maybe was a little old school in terms of his approach to yelling at players and things like that, and maybe that wasn't the right approach for some players like Tracy.
Daryl Walker, he stayed on me hard, He never let up on me, and he was a hard guy, but, I needed that. It's a learning experience from my first year. I'm a young guy coming out of high school, so I still got a lot to learn. Throw me at the wolves and see what I can do, see if I can handle the pressure.
He probably hated me, and I didn't care. I could care less about players hating me. My job was trying to win basketball games. Did you see the flashes that he could do some things? Yeah, but he still was an 18-year-old kid trying to figure out the NBA.
I remember when the New Year's Eve game in Washington, and Daryl talking to me and a couple other writers saying, this kid doesn't watch out, he's gonna be out of the league in 3 years. We're like, whoa.
This is the rookie, Tracy McGrady from high school. McGrady gets the bucket.
I made a statement, and he tries to still be mad about that, which I can give a if he is mad about it, to be honest about it, because at the time I just made a statement. If he doesn't learn to practice harder and go harder, he's going to be out the league if he's not careful.
In that regard, Daryl was very right. Tracy needed to wake up.
Frankly, I thought he was a sleepy player, didn't get much basketball, was very unrefined, very raw.
It wasn't good, and I know Daryl probably has regrets about that as well.
I've lost no sleep over that. I did what I thought was best for the team. Now, he panned out to be a Hall of Fame player, which is great for him. But at the time, he wasn't.
That coach my rookie year that criticized me, said I wasn't going to be in the league beyond 3 years. Was he wrong? Boy, was he wrong. Boy, was he wrong.
You want to hear from Tracy, right? Yeah, us too. We tried, but never heard back from him.
There was no doubt from the beginning, this was Isaiah Thomas's team. From Damon to Marcus Camby to Tracy McGrady. He was planting seeds. I'm convinced that Isaiah thought this was going to be a lifetime project, and then hit the fan.
Isaiah Thomas has fled the Raptors' nest, resigning over the toll his 9% ownership in the team was taking on his personal resources.
Economically, my pockets can't support my emotions. How's that?
When the ownership change went down, it was a huge blow.
There was a rift, and the rift has disappeared as of today.
Slate, and I don't know what he was doing and what he was thinking. It was not good. It was not good.
He's the smiling assassin for a reason. And when you ever go against the flow of Isaiah, you better watch your back, because he's coming at you.
If I had to do this situation all over again, I would investigate my partners a little bit more thoroughly before I decided to come to another country and do business.
He's an interesting piece of work, that guy. And we would sometimes look at the same item on a table. It could be a glass of water, and maybe see it from two different viewpoints.
I think it was inevitable that he was going to leave. I thought it was really strange. I mean, he just kind of up and left.
It was a big blow because, again, he was a recognizable guy. He was the guy. He was Isaiah. Glenn Grumwald was good, but he didn't have that cachet of Isaiah.
Well, it was a rough time to take over. When he left away, the foundation was washed away in some respects, at least on the basketball operations side.
Left the team in horrible shape. Daryl Walker leaves him as coach, never coached in his life. I think we went on to lose something like 17 or 18 games in a row. So he'd left a real mess on his hands.
I think Isaiah saw Allen's heart was not in this long term. And then, 6 months later, he decided, okay, I'll just sell everything to the Leafs. And that's what happened.
After buying out John, Allen sells his ownership stake to a group that includes Larry. That group would be renamed Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment.
Raptor fans, Leaf fans, they've all spoken out loud and clear. They want us together in one place. It is for that reason I've decided to step aside in order to ensure both teams have the economic means to compete successfully.
Without the merger, we would have failed. The Leafs would have survived anyhow because they're the Leafs. They would have been fine. The Raptors would have been in real trouble.
It was a huge blow, and you saw the exodus. People wanted to leave. People were like, Isaiah's not here? Isaiah's not running it? Well, I don't want to be here.
So John's out, Isaiah's out. Who's next out the door?
Well, it's obvious Damon has had it, Daryl has had it, and both are desperate to get out while the going is still good. But how that's going to come about, only management knows. And in Daryl and Damon's view, it doesn't seem to know what it's doing anyways.
That was the dark times for that franchise right there.
To see someone every day, to have dialogue with them, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's not there that day, it messed me up. I'm not gonna lie.
He liked Isaiah. There was a connection there. So I do remember going in the locker room when Glenn told me he wanted to leave, and I sat down and chatted with him. But, you know, I was some guy. You know, here's this guy who I don't even know who he is, and there was nothing I could say. I have no credibility, no relationship to change that.
And I'm sure Isaiah, even though he was very disappointed, I'm sure probably crushed by all of this, was probably smiling going, see, you know, I showed you. Those guys, they don't want to play for you anymore.
It was disappointing. Not that he wanted to leave. You could see that. I mean, he was tied to Isaiah. His guy was gone. So he said, well, if he's gone, if he's not here, I'm not here.
I didn't really know where I stood, even though I knew where I stood. I just wanted my way. It was immaturity as well.
I don't think that Glenn has tried to do anything personally. But that's just my opinion. I don't know what goes on. I don't know what he's thinking.
I appreciated the fact that he didn't feel comfortable anymore with Isaiah gone, and you know, was forthright in terms of what his discussions were and what his plans were, and with that, you're able to deal with the situation.
I actually had got traded, well, was getting traded to Houston, and then, you know, something happened at the 23rd hour.
You know, I can't confirm or deny all the trade rumors out there. I will say that we're having discussions with a lot of different teams.
I'm just unhappy with the way it's all turned out. You know, if you're gonna trade me, but don't play mind games. You know, what's going on right now is just a bunch of games, and personally, I don't think he knows what he's doing up there.
Now, the emotional me was mad, but basketball player me, I went and had 36 that night, so it was all good.
For me to have to come back and play in front of all the fans who at that time thought I was gone now, you know, I got to put up with mixed reactions and criticism. You know, to me, that showed me right there that they didn't care about me.
I do recall there was an anti-Damon Stoudemire sentiment. I heard the boos, I heard the jeers. I'm sure Damon did as well at the time.
We were trying to, again, do what was best for the franchise.
I had a lot of immaturity at that time. You know, and so Glenn's job is to find the best deal for the Toronto Raptors. It's not to appease Damon Stoudemire.
I do remember hearing from our side in Portland that Kenny Anderson was on the trading blocks, and Damon Stoudemire was the name. But I do remember hearing Kenny Anderson saying, I'm not going to Toronto.
We play out the next month and a half, and then eventually I get traded to Portland.
Stoudemire was shipped off to his hometown of Portland in a 6-player trade.
You know, at that time, man, nobody really wanted to come to Toronto.
Kenny not wanting to play in Toronto, never playing a play in Toronto. I know at that time it didn't sit well with people.
Kenny Anderson, with his promise of not showing up, I'm figuring they needed some reassurance and bring another point guard in, and I pretty much was a throw-in. I don't think I was part of that trade initially.
It was a bit of a gamble in a way, but at the same time, you know, it was the best deal that was available to us at the time.
Icons have come and gone in this city. People forget that. What they ultimately look at is, are we a winner? And what Glenn has done here is made moves that we think makes us a stronger team and moves us to our championship aspirations.
I've spoken with Damon, and he said if he could do it all over again, he would not have made that decision. But he was young. Isaiah was his guy. The franchise suddenly had to go in a different direction.
Isaiah did a great job of drafting. Tracy McGrady, Marcus Camby, Damon Stoudemire. We had some solid talent on that team that if could have stayed together, they could have grown. We all could have grown and been pretty good, to be honest about it.
I look back on it, and I got a lot of regret about it. You know what I mean? It was just like, what could have been? Just like that, it was over, man.
The guy who got the team, the president and GM, the star player, rookie of the year, like everyone's leaving. Can Toronto be a basketball city? Like, did we really get this so wrong?
It showed that there's always a shakeout in all franchises that start, and I think you see it in every sport, every expansion. There are blips, there are big blips, and this is a huge one.
People had lost faith in the organization, and there was even concerns in the league office, like, do they know what they're doing up there now?
Things just wasn't comfortable, things just wasn't right. We wasn't winning, the team was in some turmoil. And everybody think I got fired. I didn't get fired. I resigned. Glenn Grunwald tried to stop me from resigning, and I just said, no, it's time for me to step away, and I did.
It was a real tumultuous time in a young franchise, and it was kind of the thing that made you think, wow, is this going to survive here?
And that was where the concern was going. And it was that way until Vince just did that dunk at the All-Star game, and everyone forgot about all that.